Good day, my fellow citizens of Redmont. My name is Jordan, and this is part of our special coverage on the June 2025 presidential elections. Today, we'll interview one of the presidential candidates for this election. I would like to introduce you to Bezzergeezer. Hello there. Hello there. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well, thank you.
All right. First of all, thank you for being with us today with this interview. Really appreciate it a lot. So let's start with the opinion polls that happened. So Pepe Polling Corporation released a opinion polling just a few days ago, and from its from its results. Sorry, from its results, it shows that your campaign secured only 10.20% of the first preference votes of that opinion poll. Um, what is your reaction to that result? Does that what does this show for you? Meaning, should you be aware of it? Should you change? Should you add changes to your campaign to in response to that result from the opinion poll?
Well, I think anytime you get a poll that doesn't necessarily, support you in the way you would like, you have to look at it and you have to think about, like, what does this mean for my campaign? But when you look beneath the surface of that poll, you realize it was conducted mainly in Discord. It was conducted, a lot of their supporters filled it out, so I definitely think it swayed in their way. Um, but yeah, you gotta analyze it and you gotta take that away. And what I'm taking away from that is that this is not gonna be an easy election. You really have to spread your message, and I will take my message to the Redmont people.
All right. Next question. Back when you were the Speaker of the House, you've told in a press release that you were retiring. What made you come back to politics, and why did you decide to run for president?
Well, I think there's some important context that needs to be known about when I post that message. When I post that message, I was quite caught up in school and personal life matters, and I didn't think they would resolve in time, but they did. It was a perfect storm of when to come back, and so yeah, the retirement letter was it was in a different time compared to now. Now of why I'm running for president, I think that's a different question, but um, I'm running for president because when you look at this past administration, you really have to wonder how they made it this far. Because if you look over the cabinet, it is inactive, it is in ruins, and the leadership from the top it's been non-existent. You know, we would try to hold hearings. Some of them got accepted, but mainly the WPR would come up with some reason that the hearing shouldn't happen. And so when I hear Kaiserman saying I'm not 1950 or I'm not this ticket, I have to wonder, well, I mean, what's different? What's going to change? Because this time we try to hold you accountable and you just prevented it. So I'm running because we need a cabinet that's active. And last time I provided the Redmont people with a very active cabinet. And so I'm promising you an active cabinet, a government that will be active, always hiring. If a secretary goes inactive, I will fire them. Uh, you know, uh, in addition to the policies, but mainly I'm promising you an active government that will be accountable to itself, unlike what we have seen in the past 4 months, which were broken promises.
All right, so let's go over to some policies. As of right now, as of this moment, the Justice Department is, well, for lack of a better words, is understaffed with judges. What is your, if elected, what will be your administration's plans to solve that issue?
So if I'm understanding your question right, you're asking about the judge shortage?
Yes, the judge shortage.
So I think when it comes to judge shortage, you have to look at how many judges are currently on the bench. Because I mean, look, we currently have one judge, 3 justices, and 1 magistrate. Um, I in my opinion, what is needed is an extra judge. So I would analyze around. I'd look around, like, is this a good candidate? Is this a good candidate? Ask around the legal community. I'd ask the experts. I'd ask the Chief Justice himself, some of the justice judges. Who do you think would make a good judge? And I think we need to get a judge up there as soon as possible. Now, if we need a third judge, I'd look into that. We'd see if the extra judge would fix that problem. But I think, you know, this is only really a band-aid. We're going to keep losing judges and justices, and we're going to have to keep replacing them because we haven't had a stable judiciary with multiple judges. We've had a stable Supreme Court, but we've not had a stable federal court. So I think what we need to do then is take a step back and think, why aren't people becoming lawyers? Why are people scared of the legal field? And I think part of that is, it's an intimidating field to come into. So we need more wiki guides on how to do it. We need a training program in the DOJ. We need to encourage people to enter a difficult field, because if we're not supporting them in this field, we're just going to keep band-aiding the problem and it's not going to be solved.
All right, so we're gonna be kind of scoping out, I guess what you call it. But I'm just gonna ask you a very, I'd say a very global, more general question. What would you say is the biggest issue currently on Redmont, and what is your plan to address it?
Well, I think that's a very loaded question, but if you had to ask me what the biggest issue that I think is sweeping out right now is, I think it would be unemployment. If you look at the companies we have in Redmont right now, there's not that many, and the ones that are, they aren't hiring, or they aren't active. So we need to encourage business creation, and we need to encourage businesses to hire people, because if people aren't getting jobs, if they aren't starting businesses, then our economy isn't evolving. And this is my big policy from last time. I believe we need a federal job center, because people, when they log on, they're like, how do I get a job? How do I get a job? And people are just like, apply to the government, or, wait to see an ad. There's not an active recruiting process. So, my federal job center idea is, it's going to be a system where people will make a ticketing game saying they want a job, what job they want, and the Department of Education will have a channel where they'll see these tickets, and they'll have a list of businesses, and they'll be able to pair them with the businesses and help them get a job, because we need to pair businesses with jobs, and pair people with businesses.
Alrighty, let's focus to foreign relations. If elected, how will your administration? What is your administration's plans, if elected, on foreign policy on Alexandria?
Well, I think we need to take a slow approach to foreign policy. I don't think we need to get in anything quickly or anything, but we need to have more meetings with them. Well, one of my plans is to have some summits. So basically, where ministers and secretaries will be able to meet each other, the prime minister, the president, obviously, will be able to meet, and the representatives and parliament members will be able to interact with each other and discuss the issues between the two countries, and reach these things or these common agreements about help each other. Um, Additionally, I think in time it would be really good if we made a global organization between the towns, the Commonwealth of Redmont, and Alexandria, because we can do cool events like the Olympics, we can do trade, we can do all these things, but we need to have the foundation and the organization to do these things. Because when we left the United Nations last time, it had no organization, had no purpose. We need to slowly engage in foreign affairs, and we need to do it with a purpose and do it right, because if we don't, it will fall apart quickly.
All right, let's go back to local policy. Um, if elected, will your administration address the concerns of people switching residencies to vote in town elections?
Yes. So when I was president last time, I had this idea, but we hadn't fully fleshed it out, and it wasn't possible. But now I believe it would be time to implement a system where you are only allowed to vote in a region of which you own property or have an active business in. So I think to vote in, for example, Oak Ridge or Aventura, you should have to live there or rent or have a business there. Yeah, so just basically encouraging the use of actually engaging and being active within the town. Um, I think we can all agree across the whole Commonwealth that people should not be able to switch between every election and just vote in whatever they want, because that is how we get stacked. That's how we get not truly local elective democracy. So it needs to be elected by the people who actually interact and live within the town.
All right. So I think this will be, yeah, I think this will be my final question for now. Yeah, I think this will be my final question. How do you plan to address concerns regarding your apparent lack of activity when you were Speaker of the House? Yeah, how could you promise to your voters that you will be active if
Well, look, I think you have to look at the context of when I was speaker and the inactivity claims. The inactivity claims really stemmed from 1 week where I was inactive and didn't put bills up to vote. Every other week, the complaint was how I put up bills, which I preferred to put them up in batches, not in smaller batches. I like to put them up in big batches. So that was where that main inactivity came from, and from the Appropriations Act, which I did take a little too long to put up, and I apologize for that. But I can promise you that I will be an active president, just like last time I was president. I will be active. It's the summertime, you know. I will be an active president if elected.
already. I think that will be all for this interview. Thank you for having us today. Um, that will be all for today. That my name is Jordan, and this is TPA News. See you tonight. See you tonight at the debate, and also make sure to vote since the polls will now open in just a few hours.